What's up, guys, and welcome back to Wake Entertainment. So today we want to be looking at accused number 3 and the way that he was arrested in 2015. So the sergeant that arrested him then is called Sergeant Masondo, and he didn't have a search warrant then. So he then arrested accused number 3, then took him to his house, where he then searched inside the house. So the main issue here is that Sergeant Masondo did not have a search warrant.
Its 10th witness, Sergeant Mandla Masondo of the Organized Crime Division and the Taxi Violence Unit, has given testimony of how the arrest was effected of accused number 3, who is one of the 5 accused who stand accused of murdering Senzo Meyiwa. And of course, Advocate Mnisi, on behalf of accused number 3, then took his time in going through that detail piece by piece, going as far as asking about arrest warrants as well as that process that they used to recover the serial number on firearms. Perhaps let's focus on the conduct of the police when effecting an arrest. And this is something that we heard also from Advocate Mnisi on behalf of his client, asking him whether a warrant of arrest or whether the police had a warrant of arrest when effecting this arrest. And this is what we heard.
You are telling this court, this trial, that when you searched him, you did not have a warrant of search, not so?
It's so.
Thank you.
Ngiyasho-ke futhi ukuthi ngangenayo incwadi engivumelana nemigunyazisa ukuthi ngimsearch.
That is now both when you searched him in the streets and also when you searched in the room where you say the room that he pointed out to you, not so?
That is correct.
The issue of now the search warrant. Remember, as I say, before the police can conduct the search, they need to have a warrant. But where they don't have a search warrant, there must have been an information, reasonable information. You don't just wake up and go and search somebody's premises without being authorized. But if the reasonable belief that you would get that warrant, but if you had to go and apply for a warrant, it would defeat the purpose of the search, then you can go and search. But still, there must be an inquiry to satisfy those requirements. You don't just formulate that reasonable belief. There must have been some facts before you as a police officer to conduct that search.
So what is happening here is that Sergeant Masondo actually got information on Tobisi Mncube's whereabouts. Then they went to him and they found him actually walking with his girlfriend. That's when they then introduced themselves as police officers and then arrested him, Tobisi Mncube, then took him to his home where they conducted a search. But the challenge is that they did not have a search warrant. So this is where the point of contention is at in court now. So let's look at this legally. Are police officers actually allowed to search a residence without a search warrant? Police officers are actually required to have a search warrant for them to be able to search that house. But sometimes, due to processes and stuff, this process can actually take a very long time. So there are cases where an officer is actually allowed to search without a search warrant. The first exception is when the individual that has been arrested actually consents or gives that consent to say, okay, you can go, let's go and you search inside my house. That way, a police officer is actually allowed to search inside the house. But the unfortunate part now when it comes to Tobisi Mncube is that this consent, it seems to not have been given to Sergeant Masondo to actually search inside the house. Or in another case, maybe you have been caught in the act. When you have been caught in the act, that's when the police then can arrest you and do a body search there and there because you've been caught red-handed. But from Tobisi Mncube now, as I said earlier, he was actually walking with his girlfriend. So there is no this issue of he was actually caught red-handed or stuff. So obviously, by just looking at these few points, we can see that the arrest of Tobisi Mncube was actually unlawful, and the defense can actually challenge the legality of this arrest. So looking at the search that actually occurred at Tobisi Mncube's house, the search itself without a warrant or consent from Tobisi himself, it means that the search actually could be deemed illegal by Judge Rata. Not only Judge Rata can deem that search to be illegal, he can actually exclude all of the evidence that was found during that illegal search and any evidence that was submitted by Sergeant Masondo, and the state is going to be deemed inadmissible in court. So we are going to see Judge Rata potentially throwing out all of this evidence. So let's look at the purpose of this search warrant and why it's so important. The reason why it is so important, it is to make sure that police do not abuse that privilege. Otherwise, they can just wake up at the middle of the night or at any time and just arrive and say, I am here to search your house. You can imagine scenarios like that. So the law is actually there to make sure that all of the proper procedures are actually followed. Like in the case of Mtobisi Mncube, he's actually walking and just refreshing, and people just arrive and saying, we want to search inside your house. It's kind of like unacceptable to Mtobisi Mncube. Is like his privacy has been invaded. That's why this law is actually there to ensure that proper procedures are followed. So this search warrant usually it's like reviewed and approved upon the request for by a judge, and it also makes sure that police do not like repeatedly search someone's home without the approval of the courts, because if they have the right to search at any will, then they can like continuously come and saying we are here to search, we are here to search. So the law is there to restrict all of that. And in this case, it seems Sergeant Masondo, he sort of like violated his own rules, as he didn't have a search warrant, did not get consent from Tobisi Mncube to do this search. So he is very, very much at risk of being deemed by Judge Rata that the arrest that he made from Tobisi Mncube was actually illegal in itself. So one famous example occurred in 2013, and it was Oscar Pistorius. There were allegations of improper like handling of the evidence that occurred in that case, and Oscar Pistorius was then like granted bail early in the case, because his legal team had actually argued that the police had not followed proper procedures during his arrest. Obviously, we all know that at the end, Oscar Pistorius was actually guilty, but the police, whilst arresting Oscar Pistorius, they did not follow proper procedures. That's why Oscar was then given bail. So this example, it clearly shows that if the police do not follow the proper procedures, this accused person who will have been arrested and had been put in detention can actually be released. And to add on top of that, there's the arms deal case for Jacob Zuma, and that case was actually marked with several procedural issues, and there were so many claims that the prosecution had actually mishandled the evidence in that case. So due to mishandling of the evidence in that case, the NPA actually like dropped all the charges, citing abuse of the power in the prosecution in the handling of the case for in the violation of the procedures. So you can definitely see that unlawful arrest is actually not allowed by the law, and the person who will have been arrested can actually be released. So returning back now to Mtobisi Mncube, what do these two examples really mean for him? Do they mean that he is going to be released? Let's look at it.